Hey everybody, hope you're all doing alright. So we got a little reading from The Mars Mystery by Graham Hancock. Alright, we're up here. Dust storms. A few months earlier, on February 1971, an astronomer at the Lowell Observatory in Flagstaff, Charles F. Capin, excuse me if I mispronounced that, made a prediction concerning the weather on Mars. He thought it probable due to the position of Mars at that time in perihelic opposition that a dust storm could arise toward the end of the summer. Sure enough, on the 21st of September, as the three craft were approaching Mars, a small cloud developed over the Hellespont region. When Mariner 9 turned on its TV camera on the 10th of November, having overtaken its Russian rivals to be within 800,000 kilometers of Mars, it revealed a planet whose surface was completely obscured by a violent global dust storm. Nothing could penetrate the veil of dust. The veil of dust, yeah. And so Mariner 9 performed an operation that would secure its place in the immortal heaven of the history of space exploration. It switched off its camera and waited. The two Soviet craft, Mars 2 and 3, were modeled on the Venera orbiter lander craft that the Russians had deployed on the surface of Venus in the 1960s. The Venera missions had been moderately successful, sending back information from the landers during descent, but losing communication after they reached the surface. If the lander modules on the Mars probes were equally successful, then they would be a sensation and would overshadow anything achieved by Mariner 9, a dedicated orbiter with no lander module. Mars 2's lander failed to make a smooth descent. On the 27th of November 1971, it crashed into the Martian surface at a point north of Hellas, 44.2 south, 313.2 west. 5 days later, the Mars 3 lander deployed. On the way down, it transmitted back frames for 20 seconds before all contact was lost. Having landed in the midst of a violently destructive dust storm, it is thought that its parachute was dragged by 140 meter per second. 140 meter per second winds. And that it was smashed to bits. Usually it's like 140 miles per hour. This is per second. That's nuts. Mariner 9. As the Mars lander was consumed in the global dust storm below, Mariner 9 drifted silently into orbit, dormant, conserving its energy. Meanwhile, the Mars 2 and 3 orbiter modules, from which the unsuccessful landers had been deployed, snapped away at the red planet in a whir of irreversible pre-programmed activity, and sent back to the devastated Russian team picture upon picture of dust clouds. In December of 1971, as the storm subsided, Mariner 9's systems were switched back on. Unlike its Russian counterparts, its computer was programmable after launch, and thus its mission could be altered as it went along. Such flexibility meant that its orbiter, of all the craft that had been launched that May, was the only one to succeed in its mission. Mariner 9 approached Mars to 1,370 kilometers and began mapping the southern hemisphere from 25 degrees to 65 degrees south. It continued with up to 25 degrees to the northern hemisphere. By the time that it ran out of the field on the 27th of October 1972, it had captured 7,239 stunning images of Mars. With sufficient resolution to reveal surface features as small as a football field. Once again, scientific concepts of our neighboring world were about to be turned on their head. Revelation. When the dust clouds subsided, they unveiled a Martian landscape that was a geologist's dream. Large, inexplicable dark spots that had poked through the swirling storms, clouds were disclosed as immense volcanoes. The gargantuan Olympus Mons, 3 times the height of Everest. 3 times the height of Everest. I think Everest is, 27,000?